This is election 2022 featuring the Doña Ana County Commissioner District 3 Forum. I'm Anthony Moreno. Thank you for joining us. KRWG Public Media and the League of Women Voters of Southern New Mexico are pleased to present this forum. Joining us for this forum is the incumbent Democratic candidate, Shannon Reynolds, and the Republican candidate, Patricia Susan Kimble. My co-moderator for this forum is Brook with the League of Women Voters of Southern New Mexico. The rules for this forum are simple. Both candidates have up to 60 seconds to answer each question and should not mention their opponent in their answer. I'll start off with the first question for Commissioner Reynolds. Public safety is a concern in the county. If elected, what are steps you plan on taking to address this issue?
Thank you, Anthony, and thank you for the opportunity to address you. For public safety, we are currently understaffed a little bit, and some of our requirements are to continue to hire more people. We've increased their pay. We've also are looking at adding a hiring bonus, which is something that we discussed today, and that is available to the county to do that. In addition to that, we're also trying to, with more staff, to actually increase the coverage in some of the rural areas. Other than that, if I look at the history of the Sheriff's Department over the last 4 years, we've had no significant lawsuits against the county. So from our perspective of risk, we're actually doing pretty good. So it's just more of getting more people on the street, more feet on the street, and working with the community locally.
Okay, candidate Kimble, same question.
I think the biggest issue that I see from the outside, not being at the county yet, is the disconnect between the sheriff and a lot of other people in the county. And I think a bridge needs to be built there. And work more with the sheriff, work more with her staff to try and see what maybe they need to do a better job. And I agree there are a lot of empty positions that need to be filled. But as I've been around in areas talking to people, I've also heard people say, we're willing to do a neighborhood watch, we're willing to do this, we're willing to do that. So more community development of people helping themselves, I think, is a good idea. I think that's a great ground base for public safety for the deputies that might be in the areas. And so I think I would focus a lot on grassroots public safety.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Kimble, what can the County Commission do to help recruit and retain county law enforcement and detention center officers?
Being that the County Commission is in charge of the budget, like we mentioned, I think that that's important that they look at higher salaries, maybe bonuses. Another thing that we've heard recently is that to perhaps let the deputies work part-time at schools where the school system pays them as well would encourage them and enable them to make a little more money, and that might help as well. But I think that the budgets need to be raised and morale needs to be raised, and so I think there needs to be a lot of healing and bridge building, like I said.
Thank you. Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you, Kathy.
Same question.
Thank you. That's a very good question. Like the Sheriff's Department, we have in a detention center as well, we've increased the pay for the entry level. We've increased them. We've actually got recruiting and positions open constantly for people to come out. And this is a problem that we're looking at in every bit of law enforcement throughout the state and also the detention centers. We had a visitor at the commission this morning, which was the general from White Sands, from Fort Bliss, and he said their recruiting in the Army is down by over 20%. Retainment's up to 103. I mean, everyone throughout the United States is suffering with the same problem because of the 3.5% unemployment. But incentives, better pay, better benefits. We're very competitive with everyone around us, so we do pretty good. We just have to focus more on that.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to a question about mental health. This is for incumbent candidate Reynolds. The county's crisis triage center opened in recent years. What do you think the county commission can do to strengthen mental health resources in the county?
I thank you for that question. The crisis triage center was opened with the idea of it was going to be a mental health triage, basically, so that people in the community who actually were suffering from mental trauma could be brought to the crisis triage center, spend up to 23 hours there, and then be released into some other add-on program. Some of the promises early on in that stage was that they would actually make connections in the community in order to have them for 23 hours And then once that's done, they would actually move them into other programs throughout the county, the city and the county. There's still some connections there that are not actually made and not working. I think the better solution is a more comprehensive mental health approach that actually is provided by LC3, because they represent, I think it's over 80 or 90 different organizations, and to service the whole county. So I'd like to see a merger between CTC, Crisis Triage Center, and what LC3 is doing.
Okay, thank you. Candidate Kimble, same question.
I was a founding member of Local Collaborative 3, what he's talking about, LC3, in 2005, and it's always been a community organization that has worked to improve access to services in Doña Ana County. And I think the Crisis Triage Center needs more collaboration. It needs more, what else they're trying to do is the company that runs it is going to try and work with the legislature to let them allow to keep people longer than 23 hours, maybe 2 weeks. And the 23 hours is a guideline. A lot of times if somebody comes into the Crisis Triage Center and they're just off their medications and they're scared and they're afraid, they can be out of there in 3 or 4 hours if they're given into another service, if they're referred into another service. Unfortunately, because we're so underserved in this area, 23 hours is sometimes a push to get them out. They can't get them in to see somebody else that quickly. So when the Crisis Triage Center is expanded so that they can stay longer, it will give somebody maybe 3 days to be there, and then it will help them a little better.
Thank you.
Ms. Kimble, there's been growing concern about substance abuse in our state. What can the County Commission do to address this issue?
I think DWI patrols will help a lot. I think that helps curb people doing it in public and being reckless. But the alcohol problem is so statewide, and it's not being addressed at the state level enough. And I'm afraid that I know that we do not have enough providers to help everybody. And substance abuse is a hard program to get help for. And that's one of the problems. It needs to come from collaborations with the federal government, with SAMHSA, with the state government, with other people to build services that can help people that want to get help find it. It's a really tough situation. And a lot of times it's the family members that are saying, we want to get this person help. Until they're ready, you can't help them most of the time. And so it needs to be more awareness of what's available, but there needs to be more available first. So the county can promote more services, can help, maybe possibly develop new services.
Thank you. Mr. Reynolds, same
Thanks.
question.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy. You know, it's correct that we have several substance abuse problems, both in drugs, alcohol. Now it looks like cannabis is going to probably fall in that area. And we don't have enough facilities and the correct facilities to do it. The CTC, as an example, would not hold them long enough to put a comprehensive program in place in order to help them get off the drugs. And it takes a detox, and then it takes a period where they're off of them, and there's some training and some behavior training, change in the way they look at things. That we can't accomplish that with the current programs that we have. The only thing that I'm aware of in this state currently is Las Vegas has a treatment hospital. If we had that as a way to divert some people from going to the detention center in order to go directly into a mental health facility like Las Vegas, and some other money to fund that, plus other programs to help with detox, I think we'd be well on our way. So we need to invest more in this community.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Reynolds, next question. COVID-19 impacted our region in many ways. What are steps the County Commission can take to help Doña Ana County be better prepared for the next public health emergency?
Thank you, Anthony. That's I think the first step is recognizing it was a pandemic. And it didn't take us long. Our state, New Mexico, and this county was the first county to recognize we had a pandemic problem. And as a matter of fact, the Doña Ana County Commissioners, under my recommendation with an ordinance, actually we passed the first declaration of emergency in the state for a county, which allowed us access to more FEMA funds. From that time, we also had an early emergency management manager who just came on board, Steve Lopez. And Steve Lopez is actually putting together a comprehensive plan on how to react to pandemics, how to recognize them, what kind of resources are being needed, and the county is working off of that plan in order to make sure and fund what's necessary the next, when we face another crisis like this in the county. So having Steve Lopez at the helm doing that is a really great asset to the county.
Okay, Ms. Kimble, same question.
I've watched Stephen Lopez as well, and he's done a great job. And the greatest thing that they've done through OEM, the Office of Emergency Management, is to build teams and collaboration and work with other agencies. And because this was such an unknown item that happened, they've learned a lot. So they learned on the fly. And I fully believe that in the future they'll be so much more prepared for whatever comes next, unless of course it's a volcano. But they've been working really, really hard, and they have such great connections now and plans, and they will not take as long to respond, although there was quick response, and there were a lot of teams that got out there and helped and gave vaccinations and this I saw from the outside, not from being a county commissioner. The things I saw in the community were really encouraging, all the things they did, and I think when something happens again, they'll be far more prepared, and there will be an even more swift response.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Kimble, parts of the county have been impacted by flooding in recent years. What can the County Commission do to address this issue?
The last time I looked at the reports about flooding and the flood plans in the county, there are about, and this may have gone up since I got the information, $81 million worth of flood projects that need to be completed. There's not that much money available in the state, in the county, to complete those flood projects. So they're working very hard, and they're prioritizing the flood projects as quickly as they can with as much money as they can. And some of them may be, let's patch this up for a little while because the full-fledged fix is really, really expensive. So I think the county's doing a lot to mitigate the flood problems, and I think that they'll continue to do that. And they're asking for money in the legislature in the next year to try and get some money for flood abatement and things like that. So I think they're doing a really good job. It just takes longer than people realize.
Thank you. Mr. Reynolds, what about flooding?
Flooding is probably our biggest challenge in the county because we don't have control of it. Water is one of those things where you can't stop it. You can only move it, direct it. And we've spent, just in my term in the last 4 years, roughly $60–70 million just trying to provide some flood control up in Hatch. Half the town flooded about 4 or 5 years ago. It was pretty significant. We've got the East Mesa flood project that is estimated to cost us at least $25 million more, and that's actually cutting a trench from that area all the way down to a basin, a lake down there to do it. And we have to widen the channel, increase the channel, and take it to initially it was about 20 miles. I think we have about 8 miles of that left to do. Down in La Union, the dams didn't actually fail. It was it's over 100-year or 1,000-year rain that we got that made it overrun the dams. So the dams are being repaired. We're looking at those, but we have to identify things like that more quickly and take action more quickly.
Thank you.
I want to move on to the next question dealing with climate change. Commissioner Reynolds, climate change has been a major concern in recent years. Do you think the county's infrastructure is prepared to face the impact of climate change?
Not yet. Okay. We have already initiated two or three projects where we're putting solar panels. We did it on the detention center already, and that was about 4 years ago, working with our partner at the time, Train. And the process there was we spent about $4 or $5 million in order to put solar panels on there, and they guaranteed a return of $6 million back to the county in addition in savings and actual cash. So in forming a partnership with Train, they guaranteed the return on our investment so that we didn't lose any money. We've just initiated a second project with them as well on the Doña Ana County main building, and we've also done one at Mervda. So we're working currently in order to identify EV projects, electrification projects, electric vehicles. We're actually buying some electric vehicles. So we're moving in the right direction. We have a great plan. It's just going to take time to roll it out with the money from the federal government and also the state assisting us.
Okay, Candidate Kimble, same question.
I honestly don't know what all the county's been doing. I have seen that they've received money to put in a charging station, and they've ordered 2 more trucks that are electric vehicles. And I do think that there are things going on, and I see they're making the county building more efficient with these changes with the air conditioning and all of that. So I do see they're doing work on it, and I think everybody just needs to work harder, continue to work towards being more fuel efficient. And I think federal grants and state grants, there are lots of grants out there that people can look for, that the county can look for to help with certain issues. And I think that's a big avenue where the county should look to try and find funding to help with environmental issues.
Okay, thank you.
Next question is about the Santa Teresa Industrial Park, Ms. Kimble. The park has seen rapid growth in recent years. What can the County Commission do to help continue that growth?
What the Santa Teresa Industrial Park needs from the county now and from the state is funding for better roads, better infrastructure. There are going to be so many more trucks coming through there, into the intermodal area, into the train track, into the airport, the jetport that's just been approved, and it's just been they've approved to grow it and build more stuff. But the roads, when the state puts in roads down there, sometimes they want to put in a 2-lane asphalt road. What we need are 4-lane concrete roads. So the big trucks, we don't have to replace them every 2 years. So the county, again, with the state, with federal money, even working with Texas Department of Transportation, try and build better roads. I think that's the biggest thing. And then what else? The people that are moving here, there are groups from Taiwan that are building immense businesses here. They want to bring families in, and they want housing areas where their families can live and be happy. And there aren't really any close there. There aren't schools close to Santa Teresa, so the county can help promote that kind of growth in the Santa Teresa area.
Thank you. Mr. Reynolds, what about the industrial park?
Well, the industrial park is a gold mine, and we do need 4-lane highways there that actually can support heavy transport trucks. We also need, we're investing currently in another 11 warehouses for planes and for commerce. We have a couple of things we can use to attract more companies. Lolita, the JTIP, IRB, the LEADA is federal funding. Okay, the JTIP is for training, and IRB's industrial revenue bonds are what we can issue here at the county in order to attract companies. As we attract more companies and provide more money down there, we're going to continue to invest in infrastructure. We just received $40 million in order to improve the access over the intermodal highway, intermodal transport. We know we need housing. I'm currently talking to a company or 2 companies that are planning to bring in housing that's actually going to meet the requirement of the Taiwanese group as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next question for Commissioner Reynolds. County residents pay a tax to support Spaceport America. Do you feel the taxpayers of Doña Ana County are getting a return on their investment with the taxpayer-owned facility? Please explain.
No.
Okay.
No, I won't explain. No, I will explain. The answer is no, we're not getting the return. When it was actually formed in 2007, part of the sales presentations for that and the marketing was to say that we were going to have 4,000 jobs within 4 years or 5 years. That hasn't materialized. We currently have about 220 jobs associated with Virgin Galactic and roughly maybe 400 jobs total, generating a payroll of about $4 or $5 million. If we take the GRT tax, which is 0.25%, and we actually have them all paying and trying to be self-sufficient with what they pay in the GRT tax, they come up about $10 million, $12 million short. We're currently collecting $12 million a year to support the spaceport. 25% is going to the schools for STEM education, and the other 75% is dedicated to the spaceport. So we've got a ways to go to get there. Eventually, I think that we will get there, but we'll never get our money back.
Candidate Kimble, same question.
I do think the spaceport is going quite a lot slower than it should have, but I serve on the school board of a public charter school, and we do appreciate the spaceport tax money that we get to help us with our STEM programs. So I think anything that helps the students is a good thing, and I think that I didn't know the numbers, I'm not privy to that. I know what we get for our school, and if it's supposed to be 25% goes to the schools and the number goes up, we would only get more as well. So I'd love to see it grow, and I think more needs to be done. And I like a lot of other things, politics gets involved, and who's going to fly their vehicles from here, from there, and I think that's a problem. And I think it's still going to take another 10 or 15 years to make it viable economically, where it's really making the money, but I don't think it's going to get to the point where they promised it would when they started.
Okay, thank you.
Starting with Ms. Kimble, our next question is about economic development. How can the County Commission help support sustainable economic development in our county?
Well, I think the Santa Teresa port is a great place to start, because it is a gold mine, and there's so much potential down there for all the businesses that can come in. People from all over the world are setting up operations here choosing here from anywhere else in the world. With the connection to Mexico and the highways that run east and west and north and south, it's a great place to actually bring in new businesses. On a smaller scale, support smaller businesses, encourage them to come in, encourage people to, again, apply for grants, apply for assistance, keep working, and don't make the rules on starting a new business so difficult that small business owners can't do it. I think that's a problem. And you know, in the state, when the COVID hit and the pandemic was affecting everybody, so many businesses struggled. And if there was more money available from the state to help the businesses get going back in full force, I think that would be a good idea. And I think it would be a good thing for the county to look at that as well.
Thank you. Mr. Reynolds, sustainable economic development.
Sustainable economic development is actually, just an example would be the spaceport. It's not sustainable, and getting it sustainable is one of the things we need to do. For other economic development, we need a good infrastructure to attract the businesses first. The second thing is we need to answer the need for nearshore, onshore manufacturing, which is something that we're working on very seriously down at the Border Industrial Association. Having the Taiwanese companies come over, we had 28 of them. They're all looking in the EV industry, electric vehicle industry, are considering locating here, and I believe we'll end up with probably half of them at least. Sustainable means we have companies willing to move here. We have infrastructure that'll support them. We have education that'll provide them the workforce they need, and also a place for their families to live. So building that kind of infrastructure and that kind of area for the companies to come down in Santa Teresa, I think, is our best model right now to begin with.
Thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to the next question. As you may know, there's been efforts at the state level to grow the outdoor industry. What can the county commission do to grow the outdoor industry in our area? I want to start with Commissioner Reynolds. My apologies.
No, it's okay. What the county is doing already is we're working with the city in order to complete some of the trails around the city. We've donated some land just west of Mesilla. There was about a mile of the road there that needed to be included in the bike path so we could make the Las Cruces bike path go all the way around. So we made that adjustment. We also need to invest in small companies and small startups that are actually looking to get into outdoor industry. With the cooperation of the outdoor industry at the state level, we can bring more grants and more money in here, and everybody can invest and identify that. We can help to work with small companies in order to locate that money, put their applications in, and then bring that money here. In addition to that, I'm working with the State Land Commission and the BLM to try to identify the transfer that they're doing now of about 80,000 acres. I'm working with them to try to work out where that's going to be, so that we can actually have it close enough here that we can grow on it and create an industry there.
Okay, thank you. We'll now go to candidate Kimble.
I think when we talk about outdoor recreation, we forget about golf. And we have several beautiful golf courses in Doña Ana County. Promotion of those golf courses and encouraging people to come here, golf tourism. People spend a lot of money to go to Arizona and play golf, and our weather's just as beautiful and not as hot in the summer. And I think the county could do some promoting of outdoor recreation that's not just hiking, but maybe golf, things like that. I think that's a good idea if they could do some promoting like that.
Okay, thank you very much. We're now going to our final question for this forum.
Okay. Ms. Kimble, poverty is a major issue for many communities in the county. If elected, what will you do to address this?
I would like to learn more about it. I'm not sure what resources the county has for helping with poverty, to be honest. But I do know that there is so much homelessness, and there's so many people on a daily basis that need to go to the food pantries and the soup kitchen just to live. And I know that when the students are out of school, some of them don't eat. And that's terrible. So I'd like to learn more about it and find out what kind of resources there are. At our school, we get money from the USDA for the meals for the students. Are there further programs in the USDA that would help to bring food to people? And I think that's one of the main things. And when I've talked to a lot of people, I have done a lot in behavioral health, and a lot of people in mental health with mental health issues worry about people try to get them services, try and get them help. If they don't have someplace to live, it's really hard to go to an appointment. If you don't own a calendar, it's really hard. So there needs to be some more underlying work on what are the real problems and how can we help.
Thank you. Mr. Reynolds,
Thank you.
the poverty issue.
You know, with the AARP funds, we were able to assist people because of COVID with rent, utilities, and also house payments. We collected $9 million in the first round. We did so well expending that. We got another $4 million from the state and another $7 million from the federal government. So we basically got $20 million. It's enough money to fund an organization to distribute that money until 2025. So we have a full-time group doing that to help people still alleviate the impact of COVID. In addition to that, we have 40% of the people in the county live in a food desert. We support Casa de Peregrinos religiously from the county and in many other ways, actually providing meals for the families out there, especially when they had COVID and they couldn't go to school to get their meals. Casa de Peregrinos was actually moving out semi-trucks to the community every day during COVID, and we've helped to fund that from the county. There's other programs, but not enough time to talk about them.
Okay, thank you very much. Unfortunately, that is it for our forum. We want to thank you for joining us for the Doña Ana County Commissioner District 3 Forum. We want to thank incumbent Democratic candidate Shannon Reynolds and Republican candidate Patricia Susan Kimble for joining us. Special thanks to our co-moderator Kathy Brook and the League of Women Voters of Southern New Mexico. I'm Anthony Moreno. Thank you for joining us, and remember, Election Day is Tuesday, November 8th.